Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning for our very first virtual event. I'm sure you're all very seasoned professionals with online meetings and virtual events and webinars, so I hope that we do it justice today. Before we continue, I would like to take this time and say a special thank you to Hutton, our presenting sponsor. Thank you for all you do for us, for our school district and our community. We're very grateful for Hutton and all of our sponsors for helping make this year's event a success. As of this morning, proceeds for today's event are more than $16,000. So we're incredibly thankful for that, for our volunteers, our sponsors, our staff, and all of the students even who volunteered to help make this, all of the pieces come together for today's event. We've got a fun morning planned, at least we think so. Got a few housekeeping things to take care of first. You will not be able to chat today, which is something you might be used to. Please keep your eyes on the chat box though. We will be sharing information there throughout the meeting. Different things that you can download, links that you can explore. Now actually would be a good time for you to check out that box. We did email a digital program out to many of you for today's event, but in the event that you don't have it, you can find a link there to view or download that event program. There will also be some points in today's event where we have people pop in and pop out. I will also let you know during some of those times where you can drop a question in the Q&A box below. We'll do everything that we can to answer those questions during today's event, but we don't have you for a very long time this morning. So anything that we don't get to today, we will try to answer those questions out in Facebook or some other means over the next several weeks if it makes sense to do so. Please don't forget, this event is a fundraiser. It's one of our most important fundraisers of the year. So if you have the opportunity, please click on the link to visit our website and make a donation there. Every dollar counts and helps us keep doing what we do, supporting the students and educators of the Maize School District. So these donuts sure do look good. I may have had one or two of them already. All of this year's sponsors received boxes of pastries as part of their sponsorships. 5 different pastries, all baked, boxed, and delivered by members of the Maize Pro Start team. So thank you to all of those students who helped make this event a little bit more special. Ms. Poole and all of the other teachers there who guided the students and worked with us to come up with the recipes and to get those all out to you. I'd also like to give a special shout out to Alec Pham. Alec is a 2020 graduate of Maize High School and a former member of the Maize Pro Start team. He also happens to be a pretty decent, I'd say decent, if not really, really good food photographer. The photograph that you see on the screen is one of his, and for those sponsors, if you look inside of your pastry box, that little card that's inside on the underside of the lid has photos of the pastries that were baked by the students a few weeks ago as a test bake-off. Alec took a picture of all of those, and that's what you see there. So if you take a look in your chat box below, you can see a link to Alec's Facebook page where you can explore a lot of his other work. So the Pro Start students have also worked up a demo video for us, which we're going to show here in just a moment. And we've got a couple students who will join us after that to get us a little bit more information about what it's like to be students in the Pro Start program and baking all of these wonderful pastries. So take a minute and drop a question in the Q&A box below if you'd like, and let's take a look. So I don't know how many of you have had a chance to eat one of those Pop-Tarts, but they are pretty darn good. We have two of our Maize Pro Start students joining us today. We have Farhat and Ellie. Thanks for joining us. Both students have a pretty big hand in getting those pastries baked and out the door. Hi, ladies. How's it going?
Great.
Good.
Excellent. Well, thank you for working on those and for joining us today. And why don't I just start by having each of you introduce yourselves. Farhat, how about you go first?
Hi, everyone. My name is Farhat Phamoto. I take culinary classes at Maize High School, and I'm a junior.
And Ellie?
Hi, I'm Ellie Canizzo. I'm a senior at Maize High School, and I'm on the management team for ProStart.
Great. I'd also like just to take a quick minute and say thank you to Ellie. She's been interning in our office to learn about events and event planning. So it's just been a really interesting kind of mashup of duties and responsibilities, but she's helped put together some of the details for today's event. So thanks, Ellie, for that. So you both mentioned a couple different things about ProStart. Why don't I ask you to talk about what ProStart is and then kind of go from there? Ellie, do you want to jump in?
So ProStart is a national organization. There's two different sides of ProStart. There's the culinary team and the management team. Culinary students are, put together a gourmet meal in an hour, and management students create a complete restaurant concept and present it to judges.
Sounds pretty intense. So Farhat, you are a junior. This is your first year in the ProStart program, is that right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit then about what your experience has been?
My experience is pretty good because we were able to after we were able to come in because, COVID, they started to get all the classes together, and I was able to meet Ellie and the other students that were in the other classes. So it was fun to share ideas and stuff like that and talk about what we were doing. And it was a pretty good experience, honestly.
That's great. Ellie, tell us a little bit about management.
So for management, like I said before, we create an entire restaurant concept and then later present it to judges. Last year, I was also on the team, and we were kind of ahead of the times and created a complete delivery-based concept, and then the shutdown happened right after, so it was a little ironic for us. This year, we had a remote homework spot, and it's really cool because we get to think of everything that the business would include. We just create a business without the money, and it's not an actual thing. So it's really awesome, and it could actually be a real thing.
That sounds really cool. Now, Farhat, I think part of what you have to do with the culinary side of ProStart is to develop recipes. What's inspiring to you, and how do you develop those?
I've always been into cooking. So since I was a little girl, 5, 6 years old, I started cooking with my mom in the kitchen, and I was just obsessed with it. And being able to do it in high school is pretty cool. And I had to create an appetizer because, we couldn't do it with a team because of COVID and stuff. So I had to cook it by myself. And what inspired me to make the recipe is I have this 26 spice blend, and I kind of just wanted everything to blend with it. And the spice blend is from my home country, which is Eritrea. It's in East Africa. And so we decided to make a salad and then grilled lamb because we eat a lot of lamb, and it goes with the sauce pretty good. And then we made a hummus on the side, which is pretty good. And everything just kind of mixed together. It's pretty awesome.
Sounds pretty tasty. I'm going to have you cook for us sometime. So what sorts of life lessons would you say, Farhat, I'll ask you this question. What sort of life lessons do you think you're learning by taking the culinary classes at Maize?
You learn a lot about talking to people and how to professionally make a meal and what goes into the process of making it, which you have to really work through, and the costing, all the sources that you have to find to like recipes, how to play. You also have to communicate with your teacher because I didn't know any of this because of COVID and stuff like that. And so I was also able to get my manager's certificate, which also allows you to work in restaurants, chef, and like help in the back kitchen and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
Great. Ellie, what about you? Any life lessons that you would share?
Being in ProStart has definitely made my confidence go way up. I've gotten so much better at talking in front of people and just communicating with strangers, which is a scary thing as a student, as a teenager, talking to adults. I know lots of students are scared of it, but it's become way easier. And I've also been able to meet so many people in the industry through not only Miss Poole, but just the organization. So it's super cool.
So I see one question in the Q&A box about the video, and it is asking, why do you use a fork in the water when you're pouring that into your mix? Does one of you want to answer that?
It is kind of also, as a pastry blender, you can really just mix things together. Good with it, I guess.
Now, I think both of you have taken baking, right? Is that part of, what are your favorite of the pastries that you guys made for the sponsors? Do you have a favorite one?
My favorite's
You can go ahead.
My favorite's the Pop-Tarts.
My favorite was the scones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of flavors do you like to experiment with when you're baking? Farhat?
A lot of like sweet, because it's, baking is always like something sweet and something like that. So I like to like also try to put like fruit in it because it gives it like a fresh flavor and stuff like that. So it's pretty good.
Do either of you have a favorite baked good?
I like cinnamon rolls.
Yeah.
Cinnamon rolls, yeah.
Me too. I like cinnamon rolls and like cheesecake.
Okay. Very cool. Do either of you, and maybe Farhat, let me ask you this because you're specializing in the more culinary piece of ProStart. When you go out to eat, do you ever sit and think, how can I recreate this thing that's in front of me that I'm eating?
Yeah, pretty all the time. I went to Texas Roadhouse for my first time, and like I really wanted to make the rolls in like the cinnamon butter. And so I went home like a week later or something. I found a recipe online that kind of imitates it. So I was able to make it, and it was really good. We also made it in pastry and baking 1, which was like last semester. So I was able to make it twice. It was pretty good.
Awesome. Now, Ellie, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question since you're thinking in terms of more management and that sort of experience. Do you have some of those same ideas when you go into a restaurant or a cafe someplace and think how you might do something differently or how something there inspires you?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Just naturally, like learning all of the things that you learn within like the management, you start to pick up on little like marketing things or like you can see what businesses are doing. And I just think it's so funny and so interesting that I'm like, hey, that's really cool. Or, hey, I would not do that. Or there's just so many different little things. And I love it. And I think it's super cool.
So do either of you, because your parents say, well, since you're taking cooking classes at school, that you have to be the ones that cook dinner at home now for the family? Farhat, you're laughing.
Not really, but most of the time, even before school like started and like me having to cook in school for classes, I've always had like a lot of cooking experience at home. And because like everybody's busy with like work and stuff, so I always had to like experiment and like, I had time to make dishes and stuff. So, well, they still make me do dishes. So hey.
What about you, Ellie?
Over quarantine, we had chores that were kind of like what we were interested in, and mine was making meals for everyone. And so my mom was like, Ellie, go cook. And I was like, okay. And so I made lunch for everyone every day. And so that was really fun. And I continue to just make dinner at random times and stuff like that.
That's great. So what culinary class, Ellie, has been your favorite?
My favorite by far has been culinary arts because I love more of the savory side of cooking more than the sweet, which is like all the baking classes and stuff. And I also just love cooking meat, which is culinary arts. And so that was my favorite.
Farhat, what about you?
I also have to agree with Ellie because we make different stuff. We don't make just like savory. We also kind of bake sometimes. Like it just depends on your mood. And like being in culinary, you're gonna have to like cook a lot of meals and stuff. And then baking and pastry would just be like a lot of pastry. It was a lot like carbs and stuff like that. And sometimes you kind of get tired of it. But being in culinary arts, it was kind of like a really good experience too because you cook, different dishes, and you also have to like compete with them, which is kind of like an extra bonus. So yeah.
That's great. So we have one more question in the Q&A box, and then I think we're out of time. So do you have specific cookbooks that you like to cook from, recipes on the internet, anything like that?
No. Sometimes like if I want to search up a recipe or something, like I just search it up on Google and like see which one I like. So like I'd look in the ingredient list and see like if I like those ingredients, if I want to use them, if I want to like omit some of them or like something like that. So it's pretty cool to like, cause I don't really have a cookbook per se, but if I do find like a recipe on a book or something, I'll take a picture of it and like make it at home or something like that. So.
That's great. Well, thank you for joining us today, and good luck with your competition. I know it's a little bit different this year than in a normal year. So good luck with that and hope it all goes well.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. First, I'd like to take a moment and just sort of take a look back over the past year. Obviously, we could talk all day about COVID and the impact that it's had on the district. I would simply like to say thank you to our community, to our teachers, to our educators, our administrators, our parents, everyone who pulled together to make everything as good as possible for our students and for our educators and for supporting them. Last year's spring breakfast, we were well on our way to have a really great event, and because of COVID, we had to cancel, but because of your support, that event that was canceled still raised more than $12,000. So thank you for that support. That helped us keep going along with our mission, and it allowed us to be flexible in the way that we support the district, especially in this past year, which was incredibly challenging. Now, we were able with some modifications to have our annual golf tournament in the fall as well. We were able with that to raise over $42,000, which in the 3 years that I've been here is the best tournament that we've had. So again, in such a challenging year, to see that kind of support and unity from our community is just really incredible. And we just want to say thank you for everyone who helped support that. We put some funding last spring and last fall into things like internet hotspots to help support remote learning. There was a period as well during the school year where we had remote Wednesdays. How long ago that seems at this point in time. But for those staff who were stuck trying to figure out how to provide supervision and support for their children, we were able to help fund a staff childcare program that covered remote Wednesdays during that time period. The biggest thing overwhelmingly, though, that we heard from district leaders, from building leaders, was what can we do to support our staff, to help encourage them, help them feel appreciated. And so we were very fortunate to be able to rally a community of a group of parent organizations, area businesses, and we were able to give around 1,300 district employees more than $20,000 worth of gifts, gift cards, promotions, discounts, just things that might be helpful for them, a car wash, just simple things that might bring a smile to their face. So we'd like to say a big thank you to this community. this community of support that rallied behind our educators to help make them just get through what really was such a tricky time. And we've already talked about this event and our fundraising opportunity here. Please, there's still time to change that number and make it bigger. Please take a minute and click on the link if you can and make a donation. Every dollar really does help. Now, I want to take one quick second and recognize a group that really I consider to be some of our biggest supporters, and that's our educators. They work tirelessly, relentlessly. They push through to do everything that they can for our students. But many of you may not know, our educators contribute close to $14,000 every year to support the foundation, our efforts, and our programs. So thank you, educators, not only for your work, but for your support. Now I'm going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about our programs, the things that we do. If you take a look in the chat box, you can find a link there to our annual report for 2019-2020. It's a sort of a recap for everything for that school year. It's a good overview of the programs and the things that we do. Now you can also go to our website and download our brochure. Our website has a lot of information as well, as does our Facebook page if you want to follow us there. Our biggest program is our challenge grants. We fund average about $35,000 in challenge grants every school year. We continue to evolve this program, and we're looking this May at making our selections for this year's grants. So keep in tune with us on Facebook and you'll get to see some of the new things coming. A couple years ago, we started something new, first-year teacher stipends. When you think of classrooms, you think of joyful, colorful, things decorated, lots of informational graphics. And a lot of those come because teachers over the years have a chance to stockpile some things in their closets and they can pull them out, or they borrow them from some of their colleagues. But if you think about a first-year teacher just out of college, they probably have college debt. They might have just moved and relocated. So we hope that this, even small amounts, something that we can help support those first-year teachers and give them a little extra joy as they open their classroom for their first time, for their first group of kids, and just make it really special for them. Student enrichment grants. We're going to talk about this a couple times today, but this is an interesting program where 7th grade through 12th grade students are eligible to apply for a grant of up to $500. And that will support activities and experiences that might range from going to a leadership camp or a seminar, expeditions in the marine biology field in the Gulf of Mexico. We have students who go to journalism convention or debate camps. We have recently seen an increase in the number of students who are interested in doing community service projects, or who might be doing an independent study project that needs a little extra funding. Things like even starting a beehive and learning how bees produce honey and how they grow through the different seasons. We typically will award about $10,000 per year in student grants. That's $5,000 per semester. So if you think about the math of our typical breakfast table sponsorship being $400, it almost covers a $500 student grant. So if you have a chance, think about it, click on the link, maybe make up that $100 difference so that we can keep awarding more student grants every year. So designer's nightmare is, how do we get everybody on one screen? But this is such a good problem to have for us. These are the sponsors of this year's spring breakfast. Thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you who contributed in some way or another to make this year a successful event. We look forward to next year when we can see all of you seated at real tables in a real space, and just really have a lot of networking and fellowship with you. You are part of our community, part of our education family. So thank you for all the support that you continue to show us as we help our students and educators each year. And we cannot go on without thanking this group of individuals. This group represents parents, teachers, community members, business leaders, and they are the heart and soul of our organization. So thank you to all of you for your hard hours, your committee work, your monthly board meetings. We really couldn't be who we are and where we are without you. So thank you, all of you, for that. So we're going to do something for our next segment a little bit different. We had originally planned on having Dr. Higgins deliver an address, but as he and I worked through details of the event, we realized that it would feel better if we could sit and have a one-on-one conversation, really talk about the district, the foundation, how the foundation supports the Maize School District. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Chad Higgins, Superintendent of Maize Public Schools. Dr. Higgins, thanks for joining us. It's been quite a year.
Yeah, thanks, Travis. It's nice to get to this point of the year for sure. I feel like there's some light at the end of the tunnel. Typically, this time in the spring, we're looking forward to summer. We're looking forward to all the exciting things in the spring, but this year probably more than ever before. Also want to thank you for having some of our students participate in this event. I think it's, I get choked up. Those two young ladies did a terrific job, and it's fun to show off all of the things going on in our district. But when you can show off, our kids can show off who they are and what they're learning and so forth. It's even better. But I also thank you and the foundation for pulling this thing together. It's I think the first big one we had a couple of years ago was such a cool event and something we were really looking forward to, even right after that event was over. And like a lot of things, COVID has thrown us for a loop, but it takes a lot to pull something like this together and do it very differently. But appreciate that because, like you mentioned before, the fundraising piece of this allows the foundation to help us as a partner with you all help meet the needs of students and staff.
As an organization, we try to align our work, our mission, our objectives, our programs with the needs of the district. And obviously, COVID has shown a light on how needs can change in a hot minute. But even over the 3 years that I've been with the organization, I think I've seen a slight evolution of needs and how some things have changed. What needs do you see changing or have changed, and how do you envision or how do you hope that the foundation and the district can partner together to meet those needs?
So I think in some cases the needs aren't related to COVID. In some cases they are. They were there before, and COVID may have exposed them or made them more significant. But I think we're seeing in our community, and probably all communities across the state and country, we have kids and families, even staff that are in crisis, whether it's mental health, whether it's poverty, could even be short-term financial challenges. Self-management for kids and adults has become a real issue. We got into some bad habits, working remotely or learning remotely or what have you. And then of course relationships. I think we've seen some real division created, again, not just locally, but across the state and across the country. And I think it sounds like a tall order for an education foundation, but you eat the elephant one bite at a time. And I think if we can start in our community and our school helping with those things, it'll be significant. I think the foundation also supports our kids and our staff by creating opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise, by letting students explore different things, and allows teachers write grants and they get to experience, try, test new things out that maybe they wouldn't have had the opportunity to without the foundation support. And I think also and I'll talk a little bit later about the value of a network, of an overall school community. But I think the foundation can help support that, can help connect different entities in the school community and strengthen that network, kind of be a communication tool or a relationship builder or what have you. So I think the possibilities for a foundation in a school community are endless.
I think one last fall it was a really good example of how engaged our parent community is, and the community that rallied around showing our staff support. Just it really moved me. It made me feel, even in the midst of all of that, very happy and excited to know that that it's there, and I'm so grateful for all of the support that everyone joined together and showed, for sure.
This is an amazing place to work, to learn, to teach, to live. I think our school and our community have a great reputation, and I think it's very deserving. It's been, growing and building. It was established, long before either of us, and I think it's our obligation to continue that. But I mentioned before, I use the term a lot, it's the school community. It's really hard to describe the dynamic that exists, whether it's a small rural community in a school or a suburb like ours or an urban school. But there's this, again, what I call a school community, because neither can exist independently. Our school, our staff, our kids need our greater community. We need their support, their expertise, their help, their encouragement, and likewise, they need us to be successful, to help raise the kid. It takes a village, so to speak. So the stronger that those two entities work together, the less separate they are, the more successful we will all be, the more successful our young people will be as they transition to adults. This network, this interconnectedness includes the foundation. It includes PTOs and booster clubs and site councils, businesses and industry, again, locally or even a little further out. It includes our alumni, our Board of Education, our teachers, elected officials, and our post-secondary institutions can also be a part of that. I think how each interact with each other, how those interact with us, and vice versa is significant. And I think the foundation can be, again, like I mentioned before, can be kind of that portal, or that piece that helps connect, helps students find this passion that's outside of the school that maybe we can't expose them to, or helps a teacher connect with a business or industry partner that can add a little bit more expertise to their instruction and light a fire under kids and so forth. So those are the things I get excited about. If you can't tell, I love this concept of, we're all in this together, and it takes a village. It can't be entirely, a teacher or a principal or a school board's responsibility, but everybody has to help. And like any other family or any other group, we don't always agree or see eye to eye. But if we keep our focus on the right thing, we end up getting where we need to be.
I think you make some good points there. I know that as I've worked on reaching out and building and establishing relationships with various members of the community, whether the Maize smaller area or the greater Wichita area communities, conversations sometimes are focused on fundraising and supporting the district that way. But a lot of conversations come to the table in the form of what kinds of partnerships are possible in terms of, I even think about the Skybus, the Airbus flying challenge, with the Career Academy and how many opportunities there are like that to have. And, so I think you're very right in that it's not a single prong, for us. And I feel a certain connection with Dr. King and even some of her vision there, and some of the work that's being done to help facilitate job shadowing and internship opportunities for our students to even ask questions and pick the brains of professionals in fields that they may have an interest in. So I think that's very true. And as I've even learned, in my short time here, I'm not an educator by training. So I've learned about STEAM and STEM, and Dr. Dooling has certainly helped shine a light on even some of that for me, and just even understanding how sometimes it's about letting students really navigate their path, and it's about discovery and not necessarily about rigid instruction all the time. And it just kind of something resonated with me in that, and that's the idea of what if. allowing us to say, what if, what if I stack these blocks this way? Well, what will happen? What if I mix these colors? What will I get? And I think of that when I talk to a lot of the educators and encourage them to apply for challenge grants. I know that they sit in their department meetings and say, well, what if we had this, or what if we did that? So I definitely think about that a lot. And I guess, do you have, it's a question for you, I guess, do you have any what ifs, dreams that we can partner with you on?
Well, first of all, I don't know that everybody understands kind of how the transition or expansion of the grants in the foundation got to where they are as challenge grants, or, years before, teachers or staff would win a grant, and to some extent we'd have a principal or a district office administrator, somebody would say, gosh, had I known they were writing that grant or that thing was coming, we could have expanded it more, or the district could have partnered in some funding piece, or, we could have made it bigger, we could have made it better, and so forth. So that we kind of revamped that process. So we can also ask the question, what if, how can we make this grant, this idea that a teacher came up with, or another staff member, a nurse in our community came up with, how can we make it better? How can we make it scalable? And so we use the phrase "what if" quite a bit in our leadership meetings. You almost have to have in any committee, in any strategic planning work, you have to have a what if or a why person. Like, why do we always do it this way? Is there a better way to do this thing? And if it's because we've always done it that way, then let's start talking about what if. And certainly COVID has forced us to do that. I had some great conversations with some of the teachers last spring who said, I was forced to create these video lessons, these digital activities that I never would have otherwise. And I'm so much better of a teacher because of it. I can incorporate that in the future into lessons when I can't be there. I have to be absent and have a substitute teacher. We won't miss as many beats for one reason or another. So I think what if is and why has always got to be a part of the conversation. I think about these gorgeous facilities we're constructing to open schools next year, in this natatorium facility. We put a committee team together of various different experiences and ideas and interests. And none of these things really were what we had anticipated as a superintendent, as district leaders, board members. It wasn't necessarily our idea, but it's the culmination of a bunch of ideas that are going to be result in something pretty amazing. But so sorry, kind of back to your question. I think these grants can provide things for students and teachers, tools, technology for students and teachers that may help them expand their knowledge or their expertise, or help them take another step, or learn something that they want to continue taking further. Or maybe they'll use that tool or that opportunity, that thing, to realize this isn't maybe something they're interested in long term, or something can't be done quite the way they thought. But I also want to think about grants as creating experiences or opportunities, camps and internships, field trip kinds of things, to expose kids or even teachers to industries or things that they wouldn't have experienced otherwise. I think grants can provide speakers to come in, or industry experts to come in and enhance lessons or activities, answer questions that maybe we can't answer. I think about events too, opportunities for kids or a class to observe or experience a rocket launch, or experience a Broadway musical, or the ocean. I think of things. I grew up in a small town. I didn't grow up, with a whole lot of money. So I experienced a lot of things for the first time as an adult. And every time I experienced those things, I thought, I'm so far behind. I felt like a little kid, and wish I would have had those opportunities when I was younger. So I'm always interested in finding a way to give, every kid, and again, every teacher too, because many of our teachers, have been teaching the same thing, and not the same way necessarily, but seeing what's going on, experiencing what's going on outside of the classroom, I think is incredibly valuable. And again, I think those grant opportunities, those experiences help create and strengthen those connections between our school and our bigger community. Sorry, that was a long answer.
Well, that's great. That's why we have you here with us today. That said, I think we have time for just one more question with you. Let me wrap up our time by asking, is there anything that you'd like to share with our audience today as we near the end of this school year?
Really two big things, I think, and then if there's any Q&A, we can do that. I think maybe there's a question, but I think one of the biggest things is find a way to help our school and community heal from the wounds that were created this past year. Not just some division that was created, differences of opinions and so forth, but we have kids and adults that are in crisis right now, and we have to find the support, the personnel, the strategies to get them the help they need so we can recover from this. And then the other piece I think that we need to do is not just hurry to get back to the old normal, not get back into a rut or not back into what's comfortable, but take everything we've learned from this experience to make ourselves, our school, our community, our policies, our practices, how we treat one another better. So those are, I think, the two big things that I think we as a school and as a community and foundation can partner in doing.
Great. So there was one question submitted. You may have touched on some of this already. It's kind of two parts. How can businesses be helpful to the district, to teachers and students? How can businesses engage with the district in ways that will be most impactful and meaningful?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ben. That's pretty broad. It's always a challenge. It's this thing also. We have a community that does have the resources financially. If we can create the thing that they want to contribute to. We have people in our community who want to volunteer, but volunteers are difficult to navigate. Time-wise and schedule and consistency and so forth. But, I don't know that we need to start another committee necessarily, but I think a focused effort on Ben's question on how can we create this connection. I was lucky enough to serve on a Project Wichita strategic planning team, and I'm also on the Business Education Alliance. And through those two things, right before COVID hit, we were getting ready to expand that, and that was really our focus: is how can we connect our kids and our teachers with our business and industry to learn more about each other, and to some extent, look at expanding ways for kids to learn and get. We have some internships, we have those experiences, but my vision long term is that our juniors and seniors can spend a significant time of their learning day outside of our school, learning in different arenas and in their interest areas, learning what they want to do, what they're passionate about, maybe before they spend a year or two in college, and then find out that's not necessarily what they want to do. So sorry, I'm kind of all over the board. I wasn't. Anyway,
I think that's great. And I think there are certainly things in the works, just even hints of conversations that I've been able to have with Dr. King over at the Career Academy, and even Dr. Skelton with special ed and other ways that we've already kind of started ideating on different ways to engage our area business community. So I think that there are certainly more conversations that can come up and we can address some of those ideas. So Dr. Higgins, thank you. I appreciate your time today and everything that you do for the district. So thanks for joining us.
I very much appreciate you and the foundation board.
Thank you. Okay, so several times today we have mentioned our student grant program. I've already told you a little bit about it, who's eligible, what kind of activities are typically eligible. One thing that we've found, though, even just over the past year, 6 months to a year, is when we have a chance to sit and speak with students directly, we've been able to learn a little bit more about the program, and we've got some ideas of how to make it better. But we're excited today to have a couple of students join us to share a bit about their experience with the student grant program. Both are juniors at Maize South High School. I've got a few questions for them, but as we dive in, please feel free to drop a question in the Q&A box, and we'll get to those if we have them. So welcome, Tad Keller, Ben Gorman. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to start, just kind of dive right in, but let's have both of you. Tad, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm currently a junior at Maize South High School. I actually use these grants to attend space camp at the Hutchinson Cosmosphere. Yeah, it's just a really amazing experience to doing that.
Great, Ben.
My name is Ben Gorman. I'm also a junior at Maize South. I used the grants to go to the Hutchinson Cosmosphere camps as well.
Great. Tad, let me ask you, how did you first learn about the student grant program?
Initially, it was through staff. So my mom worked with the school district at the time, and so that was initially when I first got exposure to it, when it really wasn't a big thing. So that's how I initially got exposed to it, but now it's certainly a lot easier.
Right. And Ben, how did you find out about it first?
I'm in kind of the same boat, but I had heard about other people getting it, and I had heard the deadline announcements like over the intercoms before, and so I kind of knew what it was for. And then once I actually did it, it made getting to go to space camp a lot easier.
Okay. You know, I think both of you have had multiple grants, right? Ben, you mentioned going to space camp and activities at the Cosmosphere. Were there other activities that you did through grants?
No.
Okay, but you did different levels of that experience, right?
Yeah, each camp is kind of a step up from the last one. It builds on each other, and so each camp is a new experience.
Okay, what kinds of things were you doing there?
So throughout the camps, we've done a lot of things. So one of them was we learned how to scuba dive. And so we got that experience, and that was one of the main things for that camp. And then at the Cosmosphere, they have space shuttle simulators, and then they actually have a new one called the Orion Capsule Simulator. And each year as we progress through the stages of the camps, we get a new, more difficult mission, and it's a simulation of what actual astronauts go through.
Okay. And Tad, you mentioned the Cosmosphere as well, but I think you also have done at least one grant for robotics, right?
Yes. So my Eagle Scout project was actually to help enrich the elementary school students within Maize, and my goal was to provide a small robotics program to help them and get them started on a path to STEM. So a part of that grant was to fund the equipment, to give robotics equipment to the Maize Elementary School.
And you competed in the VEX Robotics
Competition,
World?
yes.
That was 2 years ago?
Yes, my freshman year of high school, I did go to the World Shoot Championship in Kentucky. It was a really amazing experience for sure.
And what kinds of activities are you competing in with that?
So at the actual World Championship, you go against teams from over 50 different countries. And it's really just you're going to see, the best of the best teams and compete against, the smartest people in the world, really. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And, you have to collaborate with different people who speak different languages and who are from different nationalities. It really is a great experience for sure.
Sounds pretty challenging.
Yes, it is.
So Ben, I'm going to ask you this question, and then Tad, I'll probably ask you the same question. How have your experiences at the Cosmosphere given you an opportunity to explore potential future career, future education paths?
So this year's camp and last year's camp, we got to speak with engineers and designers from companies like SpaceX and NASA, where they're actively doing their career is what we want to grow up and do. So it's really, really cool to speak with them and to understand the steps we need to go through to achieve our goals.
Great. And Tad, what about you? Same question.
I think the focus on computers and robotics at the camp was really what interested me. I think it helped further my knowledge in that as well. It just made it way more interesting overall.
Okay. Now, Tad, how did you get interested in computer science and robotics in the first place?
Well, I started when I was about 11 or 12 years old. So starting with computers, I've always been interested. So I started programming like computers and games when I was about 13. And ever since, it's just been like a spiral. I mean, I've always been interested since then. And with the introduction of robotics my freshman year, that helped apply my skills to actually something useful and for a team sport.
Great. Ben, would you say that you kind of had the same experience with getting into your interests?
Yeah, just starting off with computers, getting interested in them. It's a lot of fun.
Great. How would you describe, Ben, I'll start with you. How would you describe the application process?
So before, when it was typed on a PDF, that was definitely and we had to turn it in, that was definitely a lot harder than the new Kaleidoscope system. I much prefer this because it's online and it saves your progress and it's a lot easier.
Okay, Tad, what do you think?
I would absolutely have to agree. I think the handwritten stuff was all right. It was actually already easier than expected, but the new online system is way better. There's no losing a massive chunk of whatever you wrote, and it's just it makes it way easier, and it's also it's open to a wider variety of people because it's easier to advertise as a website. No one wants to go to a website and print off a PDF and then fill it out and then have to turn it in. It opens the opportunity to more people for sure.
What would you recommend in terms of, this is a question from one of our audience members, how can we get this funding opportunity information to more of your classmates so that they know that it's available?
I would say, I think the first step would be to advertise in the school hallways. I mean, I think that's already done, but I think it should be more prominent, I would say. Sending an email as well to different students would help, and just make it really noticeable. I think that would be a good first step.
Ben, do you have any ideas?
I think the students understand that there are grants available, but I don't know if they know where they're applicable. So we went to Space Camp or to Robotics Worlds or to, help out in elementary school. I don't think the other students understand how much the grant can do.
Right. So do you think if we worked with teachers to help different students understand what activities are there, that might help?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Okay, great. I think that hits all of the questions that we had from our audience today. I know you guys have lots to do. We're kind of in the end of the school year, so I'm sure you have lots going on, but just thank you for joining us today and sharing some of your thoughts and your experience with us. Good luck with the rest of the school year. Thanks, guys. So these two students represent a pretty small sample of what really is a pretty wide variety of students and ideas that come in the applications that we get each semester. As I mentioned, we're already looking for ways to grow and evolve the program, and even some of the comments from Ben and Tad help us understand even better how we can better communicate with them and help them understand not just that the opportunity is here, but that we need to help them understand what activities make sense for them to do that. And I think this even alludes back to Dr. Higgins and even Ben's question about, how can you get involved? And I think this is one of those community things where we've relied heavily on parents to help their children understand, hey, here's an opportunity to go take advantage of it. But we work through teachers and counselors as well. So it's definitely a community effort and something that we will look to all of you to help us continue growing. Okay, so the final portion of today's event is one of my favorites. It's when we get to reflect back and celebrate and honor individuals who have made significant contributions to the district and who've just simply left an impact made just real change for, educators and students alike. We had originally planned to recognize and honor this pair last year, but unfortunately we're unable to do so. So we're excited to celebrate them today, even if it's from a distance. I'm going to read a little bit about you guys. Deb Elliott was a teacher and counselor at Maize High School in her early years with the Maize School District. And by the time she retired, held the role of Director of Human Resources in a rapidly growing school district. She's most likely remembered for her instrumental role as principal in the creation of Complete High School Maize, which is the alternative high school program here in the district. And Dr. Craig Elliott also held a number of positions in Maize, most notably that of Superintendent of Schools. His leadership was pivotal during a time of rapid growth and saw the passing of multiple bond elections and leading to the addition of a number of new school buildings. We've got a special treat today. We had Dr. Botts, Chris Botts, principal at Maize High School, record a special message for the Elliots. So let's take a look.
Hi there. My name is Chris Botts, principal at Maize High School. I've been in the district for 22 years and have known Deb and Craig for that amount of time. So a year ago, I was asked to give a little speech about Deb and Craig Elliott. And then COVID happened. Well, and here we are again. But I was absolutely honored to have been asked. And that is when it hit me like a brick wall. What can I possibly say in such a short amount of time to two people who have completely shaped who I am as a person, as an educator, as a leader? But I don't really want to make this about me. So I've been thinking in true Elliott fashion over a year for now. I wanted to go with a theme about what they have both meant to me, to our schools, to our teachers, to our community, and most importantly, to our students. So it's the what ifs. But I think in order to tell the Elliott story, you have to go back in time to before there was doctor in front of Craig's first name, and to when the name Zogelman came after Deb. So what if Jack Elliott hadn't uprooted his family and moved them to the small town of Leon? Craig likely would not have ever met Deb. And what if Deb had been born an introvert? What would that even look like? Who never would have had the courage to reach out to the cute boy who just moved to town? What if there had not been this spark between the two of them? And what if, out of that spark, baby Michelle had never been born as the brand new daughter of two teenage parents? The trials and tribulations that would follow have molded and shaped Deb and Craig into the people that they have become. Would they have learned patience, empathy, humbleness? Would they have known how to survive without having the means to buy milk or to pay for the postage that was due on incoming mail? What if they had given up and said, this is just too dang hard? What if these struggles hadn't occurred? Would they have learned how to persevere? Would they have still learned that sometimes life is the best teacher, and that through hard work, they would soon find out that they needed jobs or wanted jobs in education? First Craig, and then Deb. Would they have learned the lesson of work hard now so that you can play later? And awesome, it's fun to see them living that now. And what if Deb and Craig had decided that the Wichita metro area wasn't the right fit, and that Conway Springs wasn't it? Would that have still led Craig to Maize and Deb to Clearwater? And what if Craig hadn't been hired to be the new administrative assistant to the superintendent, Joe Hickey? Would Deb still have found her way to Maize? What if Deb and Craig hadn't had struggles in their life? Would they know how to meet the needs of our students, both as counselors and school leaders and teachers? What if they didn't learn the value of hard work? Would Craig still have earned his doctorate? Would Deb have decided that starting an alternative school, well, that's just too dang hard to do? Thank goodness for the what ifs. And thank goodness they learned these lessons. And fortunately, we do not have to know the what ifs because Deb and Craig have helped shape the future of Maize schools. They promoted this huge sense of community, a place to be, where they put the emphasis on hiring the best teachers and turning what was once this small rural school district into the best school district in Kansas. It all starts with the Elliots. And there's no doubt that the Elliots have left this lasting legacy that can still be felt today. Our schools are known for providing great education to students, and it is the primary reason why so many people want to move into this area. And you can't think of Maize USD 266 without paying homage to these two amazing and wonderful educators. I know I am forever grateful for both of them and hope that they are as proud of me as I am to call them both mentors and friends. So, in true Elliot fashion here, I have a little ditty to read to close. What if my whole life had been wrong? Did I really live? Did I really follow my passion? Did I really give my all to the people and the things that really mattered most to me? Could I have given more? When I reach the end and I want to know with every fiber of my being that I'm ready to leave this earth, ready because I always gave my everything, ready because I never held back my heart, never held back my love, never stopped myself from speaking my truth and living the highest expression of myself, never stopped myself from doing what was right for fear of judgment or exclusion. I want to know that I am ready to go because I followed the right path for me. Ready to go because I followed my passion, because I followed my purpose in life. Ready to go because I knew what was really important in my life, and I always put that first. Ready to go with pride because I always did right by others and right by myself. Wayne Dyer once said, "Don't die with music still in you." Don't live with regrets. Follow your heart more than your head. Follow your intuition more than expectations from those close to you. Love more than you hate. Love more than you judge. Hug more than you hate. Praise more than you blame. Be open to things beyond your level of understanding. Detach from the outcome and trust that everything will work out exactly how it is intended. Maybe not exactly as you had planned as a human being, but perfectly for the evolution of you as a spiritual being. Go to the end with pride, with joy, knowing you showed everyone how a human should really live. Bless those around you by blessing yourself. Give those around you that gift by giving yourself that gift. Thank you, Deb and Craig Elliott, for giving yourself as a gift to our district.
Thank you, Dr. Botts. We really appreciate you sharing that message with us. And I'm going to get Deb and Craig to join us. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us. How is everyone?
Super.
We're doing great.
Yeah.
That's great. Dr. Botts, thanks for that message. Deb,
Thank you,
Craig,
Chris.
thank
That was
you.
really nice.
I don't
Chris,
have any
kind of-
tissues to give you.
He kind of exemplifies all of the people in the Maize school system, and we really appreciate it.
I think so too. Deb, Craig, I know I didn't ask you to prepare anything, but here's a chance for you to tell us what does the Maize School District mean to you?
Well, we actually did take a little bit of time to jot a few things down just in case. But, you know, the first thing that I wanted to say is it's really pretty amazing. This foundation meeting is much, much different than the first one that Karen McDermott and I organized many years ago. So, Travis, you all have just done such a wonderful job. And I can tell you that we are both honored and humbled to be recognized by the foundation. So thank you for your work and the board's work for this recognition. My life's been very, very blessed, and I feel like it's been most blessed at Maize because it gave not only me, but my family so many wonderful opportunities. There are many, many people I would like to thank who helped bring this recognition to us, but to name names would just be really impossible. But I do need to mention, and Chris had mentioned Joe Hickey's name before, my mentor and friend who hired me many years ago. Joe is really responsible for turning this school system around over 30 years ago. He hired me as the first assistant anything. At that time, there were 3 building administrators, Joy Shelton, Dwayne Malmstrom, James Baker, myself, and Joe, and we ran the system for a while. And then when we were growing at a rate of 300 and 400 students, we had to add a few more people along the way. There's been many Board of Education members that I'm also indebted to for all the help they provided in introducing new ideas and programs to the parents in the school community that made things run so much smoother. And of course, it goes without saying that none of this would be possible without the wonderful administrators like Chris, the dedicated teachers, instructional staff, technology staff, the bus drivers, maintenance, custodians, and food service personnel who are today still responsible for developing the Maize schools into what I think is the gold standard for young people in public education. I could not be more proud of all that has been accomplished, and the central office staff that I worked with and who worked tirelessly and many times on a moment's notice for some of the crazy things that I wanted to do made all of this possible. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not mention the many businesses, families, and generational patrons who for decades had strongly supported the work of the teachers and school staff to help their children learn and grow in an enriched school community such as Maize. And for this, I just say thank you.
And I wanted to thank Travis and everyone who put this together in these unprecedented times. You know, originally, Travis, you got us to do this because you promised us a breakfast. Now, not only do we not get a breakfast, 2 old people had to figure out technology. So I don't know. When we started at Maize, there were 1,000 students district-wide. We watched the district grow by leaps and bounds every year. Because we outgrew buildings quickly during my tenure, even when I worked at the same school, I would often change buildings because of growth. I worked at 3 different Maize high schools, 3 different complete high school Maizes, and even 2 district offices. So I learned to never get rid of boxes. And as our district grew, so did our family. Starting with elementary school, junior high, then they graduated from high school, and now our daughter works there, and our son, while not in the district, continues a career in education. So we feel like our Maize family and our own family were one, and that we all grew up together. We poured our hearts and souls into the district, into both actually, developing lifelong bonds with dedicated, hardworking souls, some who are still there, some who have moved on. In that regard, just like our family, Maize will always be a big part of our lives and who we are. every once in a while talking with those who are still in the district, we catch a glimpse of a footprint that we were able to leave behind. And as any parent, it makes us proud and feels as if our many long hours of hard work and devotion were well worth it. So thank you for recognizing our efforts, and to all who supported us along the way, along our journey, both our mentors and those we were fortunate to mentor. We will always be ambassadors for the Maize District.
Thank you both very, very much for everything. And we'll get you some breakfast. Don't worry.
We are on a fixed income.
Yeah, right.
Well, thanks again for joining us, for everything that you've done for our community. And we hope to see you soon in person.
Thank
Thanks
you,
so much.
Travis.
And Dr. Butts,
Thanks,
thank
Chris.
you. Thanks, everyone.
See you.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our first virtual, hopefully last virtual spring breakfast. Thank you again to all of our sponsors, everyone who helped us make this event successful and who continue to support us and our school district throughout the year. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, check out our website. I know the donation link hasn't necessarily worked, but you can go to our website still and find that, make a donation. Otherwise, we hope to see you all next year at this breakfast in person, sitting at real tables, eating real food with us. So thanks again. Bye-bye.